So, Mike, why don't you introduce your person you met at Pensacon 10 years ago?
That's right. I first met Denise at Pensacon, which is a comic convention in Pensacola, of course. And it turns out that Pensacola is in the Central Standard Time.
Yep.
It
Who
is.
knew? But Denise has a brand. She's an excellent brander, and she's branded herself as the Brandmother. She strategizes, evangelizes, monetizes, and tells you how to promote your product, whatever it is, although she's overwhelmingly focused on writing. Denise, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into what you're doing?
Okay. How much time do you have?
We got all day.
Okay.
We got an hour.
Okay, an hour. Okay. I started out in television, so I was a writer-producer for a nationally syndicated TV series called The Superchargers, which was about cars and stars. So we would do shows like Chuck Norris and Walter Payton in a superboat race or something like that. So that was kind of our jam. And then from there, I transitioned into advertising. I have a degree in public relations. And so I transitioned into advertising. And I love advertising. I love copywriting. I love creative ideation. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And so I worked for a boutique ad agency where I worked on Siegfried and Roy, Lance Burton, Harmony Toys, Marshall Brodeen, who had a bunch of magic sets, Sears, Motorola. Hey, Ann.
Denise says hi.
Yeah, so a lot of big name brands, which of course are now defunct, most of them, but back then, very big name brands. And then from there, I transitioned into becoming a solopreneur. And I've had a few corporate stints in between, but most of my career has been as a solopreneur and a consultant. And so I started getting very active in online Yahoo groups. And that was when I connected with a PR group. And then I really started doing more of a focus on PR. And so then I partnered with a gentleman named Stephen Crane of Crane Creek Communications. And he's one of the top book publicists in the US. And so I learned the book PR side of PR from Stephen. And so we worked on a lot of high profile books, a lot of, we were kind of the outsource publicity team for some the major book publishing houses. And that's how I got into kind of the book publicity side of things. But, I also do PR for comics, B2B clients, products, you name it. I do it.
Would you say you're an expert on crowdfunding?
I'm an expert in establishing people as thought leaders and subject matter experts. And you need to do that on the front end in order to be able to raise money on a Kickstarter campaign. So unless your Kickstarter campaign has something that is just so exclusive and so cool that everybody wants it, then you can sort of leapfrog the whole establishing yourself as a thought leader thing. Like, for example, I waited 2 years to get my keyboard that replicated a typewriter keyboard that connected to my computer. And then I tried it one time, hated it, and sold it. But I waited 2 years for that keyboard because I was so excited to have that, because I want a whole steampunk, vibe with my office at some point. That's my goal. Obviously, when you're trying to do a Kickstarter or GoFundMe or whatever system you're using, you want to do a really professional video, and just as you would do in like a keynote presentation, you establish yourself as an expert in whatever it is you're promoting up front. Give all of your history and awards. And is this an exclusive? Is this, something that's so unique that you can only get it here? How do I develop what the value is to the customer? And so that's what you need to be pushing out. And then of course, consistency. When you're doing Kickstarter campaigns, you need pushing it out on every single social media platform. And hopefully you've developed a nice following in social media so that a lot of people are seeing it. And I would also be hashtagging it and promoting it on TikTok with the right hashtag so that people can find you.
I can attest to Denise's skills with promotional videos, because our friend Jerry Bingham sent her his novel. It was the first novel he's ever written.
Mhm.
It was astonishingly well written. And out of the blue, Denise put together a gripping video that was just as slick as it can be, that makes people want to buy the book.
Mhm.
But suppose somebody comes to you, they want to crowdfund a graphic novel.
Mhm.
The story is great, the art is brilliant, but they don't have much of a following.
Mhm.
What would you tell them?
Build that following.
And how do they do that?
So here are some things that you can do yourself without paying for a publicist. One, you can sign up for helpareporterout.com, which so far is still free. I'm going to see where it's going to go. I think it's going to be absorbed by Cision at some point, but so far it's still free. And you can see 3 times a day what kinds of journalist leads are coming through. They're looking for subject matter experts. People should never be shy about putting themselves out there as a subject matter expert. One of the ones that I think is really worth paying for, and I'm going to eventually at some point, is one called quoted.com. It's spelled QWOTED.com. And that also is a journalist query website. And you put your profile on there. And then if a journalist is looking for somebody that has expertise in particular topics, they're going to reach out to you. If you have the paid version, then you can pitch it within 2 hours. But if you don't have the paid version, you have to wait for 2 hours when all the other millions of publicists have already pitched this journalist, and then you might lose out. But if it's a really obscure topic, you might still be okay. So you create a profile for yourself on quoted.com, and you keep watching for those leads to come in. You will get email notifications when somebody wants to talk to you. Additionally, on x.com, which is formerly Twitter, but it's x.com, you look for particular hashtags. So you look for hashtags like hashtag journo request or hashtag journos, JOURNOS, REQUEST, journos or journo requests. And that's how they hashtag when they're looking for a subject matter expert. Sometimes they will also say PR or something, PR help or something like that, where publicity help, or where they're looking for somebody, a publicist, to reach out to them. LinkedIn is a brilliant way to build a following. I have about, not quite yet, but hopefully after this podcast, it'll bump it up. I'm almost at 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and which doesn't sound like a big deal because there's a lot of people that have 100,000 followers, but it actually is a big deal. I'm in the top probably 1%. Let me just say, this didn't happen overnight for me. I mean, I've been on that platform since day one, and I didn't really use it effectively until the last several years. So, I mean, I just kind of goofed around on it and ducked in and ducked out, and now I spend more time on it. Yeah, I know, right?
I've been on LinkedIn for years too, and I hardly ever go there, but now I'm going to change my attitude and make it a daily thing. I was going through a model car magazine, and I saw a picture of an unbelievable model that was computer printed, and I got the guy's name. It's that one right there.
The red one on the bottom?
Yeah, that thing is computer
Beautiful.
printed. And I got his name. So I looked him up, and it turns out that he's an engineer that lives in Los Angeles. And I contacted him through LinkedIn. And we started talking, and he sent me pictures of his model. But if it had not been for LinkedIn, I would not have been able to locate it. And the reason I did is I'm a huge model car fan, and his model deserved the full page. It shouldn't have been shrunk down there with 6 other models. It's ridiculous, you know. And because it's a visual art, we want to see him better. But so anyhow, we're talking, and he works full time at some high tech company, and he plans these things in his spare time. It's just amazing what he can do with computer printing. But I found him on LinkedIn.
You know, the other person that's done some really beautiful car designs that are kind of a combination of like a retro 1950s really cool car combined with like a rocket ship is John Van Fleet. I don't know if he's still doing them, but he was for a while, and his designs were just out of this world. I loved them. You probably can 3D print them now and have like a whole set of his designs.
Yeah.
I think that's
he on
really
LinkedIn.
Yeah, John's on LinkedIn.
John Van Fleet.
Yes. The V is lowercase and the F is uppercase. And he's out of, kind of around Chapel Hill, North Carolina, I want to say. He was in Carolina the last time we used to exhibit together at Comic-Con. So that I've known him for 20 years. And he's just a phenomenal talent.
For X and LinkedIn and different things like that, are there specific ones, especially for creative type people, that you think are worth them paying for like a professional account, especially with like X? Like you don't, it doesn't seem like you get much traction unless you pay for a professional account now.
I haven't seen it be worthwhile yet on X. I'm sure it will be at some point, but
yeah,
you know, and maybe your algorithm gets throttled a little bit or something if you're not paying for it. I'm sure that's probably true.
I doubt that because my following keeps growing and growing. But the thing about the professional grade, I think you're talking about the $15 a month fee, which lets you post as much as you want in a single post.
But see, Mike, you're famous, so you don't understand what it's like.
It helps. Yeah, that helps.
Well, you know, I'm famous in my own little circle.
Mm-hmm. Your big circle. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's getting bigger.
It's getting bigger. Yeah, I think on X it remains to be seen, but I think it will be at some point. I'm paying the $100 a month to have the LinkedIn Premium account, have the creator setting on there, so I can put my samples. But what's nice about having the creator mode setting is that you have access to doing newsletters, and I think I've got 5,700 people following my newsletter right now. To my shame, I have not invested much time in the last few months because I've had a lot going on, but I plan to get back to it because I love doing the newsletter, just sharing this kind of information with people to help them out, because it just drives me crazy that solopreneurs struggle so much to do their marketing when it could be easier. You know, there are a lot of free tools out there and free AI stuff out there to make your life so much easier, and it's inexpensive, and it really helps you to get your name out there. LinkedIn, one of the things that really boosts your algorithm is doing polls. So every once in a while, when I want to bump up my algorithm, I'll do a poll. And I'm not just doing it to bump up my algorithm. I'm actually doing market research because I want to know the answers. Additionally, you can obviously do the newsletter, and then you can also do live events. So you can do live audio events, or you could do a show like this on LinkedIn, and that would get you a huge following on there, and that would bump up your numbers pretty quickly.
You do live shows on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the beautiful thing about AI is that there's so many tools out there now, and a lot of them are free or very low cost that will really clean up your audio. I also belong to something called AppSumo, where I pay like a yearly fee, and then I get in on the early offerings for software. AppSumo's big claim to fame was they were the first people to promote Dropbox. And so the folks that got in on that early, I'm paying, $250 a year for Dropbox, and some of these people probably have it for $50 a year, or maybe $50, and that was their lifetime expense, right? So there are a lot of really cool things that get launched on AppSumo. And one of them that I did invest in was an audio sweetening program, which I have not used, but I have it.
Audio sweetening program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To fix all the balances and make everything sound beautiful. And then I just saw in the last week that there's now an AI tool that will remove all the ums and uhs out of your audio and your video, which it's just incredible. What
Can it give me a different voice?
Yes, if you want it.
If you want it, yeah. In fact, I just used, and I did this as a little demo on LinkedIn. I used a software called HeyGen. It's spelled HEYGEN, HeyGen, and it will record whatever your message is, and then you click on like Chinese, and then it'll regurgitate your entire message into Chinese language, and the AI moves your mouth.
I saw that too. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I did a message in Chinese, or no, I didn't. No, in Spanish and in French. And I was just blown away by the quality of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's that's one that I guess they're looking at that for movies and TV and everything too, because of those, when you do those translations.
Mm-hmm.
So then we won't be able to make fun of when they get the
I
lip sync off
know.
anymore.
I know. What's Mystery Science Theater 3000 going to do?
Could you do
Exactly.
that live? Like I'm working with some illustrators in Brazil,
Mhm.
and some of them only speak Portuguese.
Right.
Could you do
Yeah.
that live with them and have it translated instantly?
Not well. Maybe there is that I'm
Yeah,
unaware of.
it's in the works, but it's not really out yet.
Yeah, that would be so great to have that because
Have you been involved in any graphic novel crowdfunders?
I did a little bit of promotional work with Allegiant Arts, which is Mitch and Elizabeth
Yeah.
Breitweiser,
I know.
and who else? But that wasn't really crowdfunding. What else have I worked on? There was one called Soul Finder I did. There was a project with Mark Zachary that blew up into this whole lawsuit. Space Command was what it was called. One of the special effects people from Battlestar Galactica was involved, and from Star Trek. And so they had phenomenal footage, and they raised a ton of money. And then Space Command was supposed to launch into this whole big action series, and I had different friends that were involved in it. And then there was this other project that this lawyer in LA, whose name I can't remember, he launched a big crowdfund for this wonderful Star Trek kind of fan movie, and then that blew up into a big lawsuit because then Star Trek said that he couldn't make, even though it was beautifully done, and I think even George Takei was in it, and it was amazing. I mean, the production quality was equally as good as anything that Hollywood ever produced. But then it got into this whole murky, business where they felt like they kind of overstepped because this was a fan, production. Although let's be honest, sometimes fan productions are actually better, at least in terms of the storyline and following the legend of the story than some of the stuff that's being put out. Specifically, I'm thinking of Star Wars at this moment.
We interviewed a guy named Adam Lawson who worked on a graphic novel written by Wesley Snipes. And they crowdfunded that. And they did very well. And I'm sure one of the reasons is because everybody knows who Wesley Snipes is. But they used a crowdfunding company that's in business specifically to help crowdfund comic book projects. And the company says, well, if you want to make $5,000, it's $350. If you want to make $10,000, you got to pay us $500. If you want to make $20,000, you got to pay us $750. And I said to the man behind this, you're spreading a lack of confidence. Because people think, well, we all want to make 20,000 or more.
Sure.
And I suggested that he charge a percentage of whatever it is that he raises. But so far, they have not done that.
That seems very low. Don't you think?
I can tell you, and I'm not going to name them either, but they don't put much work in. I will say that, and they cut off.
Because I mean, just to create a video for somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, just to produce a video for somebody to put on there, although I can do it very inexpensively, but most people aren't going to charge less than probably $2,500 to produce a video.
I'm fortunate in that the man who runs my campaigns is a professional videographer. So our videos are outstanding.
By the way, thank you so much. I got this in the mail the other day, and I was just like, yes! I'm so excited.
Have you started?
I got into like the first chapter so far. Yeah. So I've started.
But it didn't hook her yet, Mike. It didn't hook her.
Oh, I love this character so much. This needs to be a TV series. I am totally serious.
Yeah. Well, that's been optioned by a producer, and he's about to renew his options, so keep your fingers crossed.
Oh, I do, because I would love to see this on TV. This would be so great.
Speaking of that, do you have any advice for those kinds of things as far as, people that would like to see their stuff turned into other
kinds of
film or
content?
whatever? Yeah.
Well, obviously, I would say you need to be exhibiting at San Diego Comic-Con and at probably New York Comic-Con. Those would be probably the two the two main ones. And it wouldn't hurt you to be exhibiting at South by Southwest, because I don't think there's a huge graphic novel / comic book contingency at South by Southwest as of yet. But, to create like a trailer and be running that trailer on a big screen at your booth would be the way to go, I think, to attract people.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but conservatives are very unwelcome at the San Diego Comic-Con.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's
that's
actually great advice with the South by Southwest and other things too. Like we get so locked into within the comic world, and I would say even with novels and things, we don't think about attending cons that are connected to whatever we're doing. Like if you do a thing about, if you're doing a comic about robots or something, you might want to attend a robotics con or something, or some technological thing, because people that do that stuff have done phenomenal. And you have to kind of think outside it's like outside the box, but it's really still kind of inside the box, because it's fitting like your brand. If you want to be big, or if you want your project or whatever to be big, you have to think big.
Well, there's a website that I subscribe to, and I pay like $250 a year, and it's called grantwatch.com. So that's grantwatch, grantwatch.com. And that is a website where you can apply for grants and, loans and that sort of thing to help launch your product or your business. And in fact, how I got tuned into it was there's an ad agency up in Wisconsin, and she funds her entire ad agency just on grants every year, because a lot of people don't even apply for them. And so the easiest way to apply is to look at most of the foundations. The foundations are where it's at. And then if they insist that you be a 501c3 and you're not, there's a business, I wanted to say it's in New York, called Fractured Atlas. And Fractured Atlas is a 501c3, and they will let you apply for grants and stuff through them as a 501c3. But
what is a 501c3?
It's a nonprofit, not-for-profit
1,
organization.
2, 3.
Yeah, 501c in parentheses, and then the number 3. There's a lot of artist in residence opportunities on grantwatch.com, and not just in the U.S., internationally. And there's a lot of stuff for people in production and in the arts. Big time. I would recommend anybody watching this take a look at that to see if you can raise some funds, and then that way maybe get into some of the bigger cons, and of course have a nice big screen behind you and have your video running the entire time. Hopefully not with the most obnoxious music in the world that makes you want to everybody around you want to lose their mind.
I've been on a crusade for years to get boom boxes banned from comic conventions. We've all been in conventions where it's boom, boom, just this annoying bass. And that's all you hear. It's just the bass echoing throughout the room.
Yeah, there was this kind of candy pop song that was being played over and over and over again for 5 days next to our booth one year. Oh, God. People don't understand how exhausting that show is.
I know.
I've seen people like make comments about, that show should go for 7 days instead of 5 days. And, I'm like, do you understand how expensive it is for, the talent to even get there? And then, your hotel room is going to be at least $300, $350 a night. And then you're hoping to God you're going to make that back. And then, your travel out there if you live out of state, and just the sheer exhaustion. I mean, my God, that walking the floor at San Diego Comic-Con, it's almost a mile from end to end. It's crazy.
A lot of people don't know this, but there's an event at the San Diego Comic-Con called the Fanboy Slalom, and it takes place every Saturday. And it's a bunch of cosplayers who gather in the southwest corner of the main hall, and they race to the northeast corner without shoving anyone or knocking anybody down. Those are the rules. And of course, the record is something like 11 or 12 minutes.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, well, you got to line up and be ready when it happens. I've seen it happen. It's very amusing. The Fanboy Slalom.
Yeah. I was really disappointed. It used to be that Wednesday night when the show started, it was just professionals night, and they've changed that. Now they've opened it up to everybody, and it's, I wish they would never have done that. It's like the running of the bulls when they open that door.
Yeah.
The whole thing is so crazy.
Caught up in it. I've literally been physically lifted up. I was like so jammed. I was like physically lifted up in a crowd it was terrifying.
If you fainted, you wouldn't fall down.
No,
that's what Orlando was like last month. I was in Orlando. Yeah. They had 100,000 people on the floor. Jeff was there.
Yeah,
Dave was there.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
Dave saw you. I think I saw Dave. I stopped by.
He saw you.
That's right.
Yeah. I wasn't there, but Dave was there.
That convention center is enormous. It's bigger than the San Diego Convention Center.
Is it the Orange County or Orange Convention Center or something?
I think it was the Orange County Convention Center.
I've been in that one then because we exhibited for Star Wars Celebration and I was there for that. Yeah, it is huge. We could write just a book of crazy stories of stuff that goes on. When we were at
you're absolutely right. And I've thought about doing that.
Yeah,
it would be fun. It would be really fun to do that. One of the things that happened when we were there, they were creating something. A bunch of these, I'm going to call them crafters because I don't know what the right term is, but they were creating something kind of in the middle of the hall. And they were literally like burning styrofoam, which those fumes are toxic.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that awful smell? And then somebody told me, and then somebody else told me that like people have literally lost their minds from working with melting and working with styrofoam because the toxins are so enormous. And I'm like, and they're just like letting them do this in the middle of the, really?
I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'd be interested on your take on this. I think Kickstarter definitely started as more pro the who like the creators are than necessarily like what they were doing. And this is something that I just think a lot of creators don't get. Or they don't like because it's like they want the people to really like the product that they're making, and they're not, and they don't like the fact that people are more interested in supporting you than what you're making. From a human perspective, that's actually a good thing. It's actually a good thing that they're making that connection and that they want to listing your credits, listing the awards and things like that. It's not about you bragging or selling them.
No, you're establishing credibility. Yeah, I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, Mike. I think you will. I find that most creators, most graphic novel creators, unless it's, maybe Chuck Dixon, are very reticent to put themselves out there. They're very camera shy. They're very, how many times have I gone through Artist Alley and these artists are like, they won't make eye contact.
I know.
I mean, they're just very introverted. And so it's really a challenge for them to put themselves out there. And I understand that, so I'm very gentle with my coaching, but I do push
You're
that.
You're very good.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you.
When it comes to graphic novels, delivering a quality product on time or ahead of time is vital to our success. Because some people have been out there waiting for 3 or 4 years. And, I've heard about graphic novels that raised 6 figures 10 years ago that never delivered. And then the creator just goes underground and doesn't respond.
Yeah, that
gives us all a bad name.
Really bad PR. Yeah.
Especially if you want to do another crowdfunding campaign or another project or whatever, you have to think about the future and say, okay, well, this is going to represent, my next thing, and it's going to affect how successful or not successful it is.
When I think about the history of how these transactions have been done pre-Kickstarter, it was very common for people to raise money and take forever to get something done. So it was almost kind of an expectation with the fans that I'm going to pay you in 5 years from now, I'm going to get a painting. I mean, my husband is notorious for that. So I'm like, stop taking money from people. Stop it. Just stop. And then I get all the emails of, I paid you 5 years ago and I still am waiting on my painting. And he's just like, yeah, I'm going to get to, no, just, oh. See, I'm a very much a people pleaser and a customer service oriented type.
Right.
And so
I think that's key to your success.
it is. And so it just makes me crazy when people aren't responsive. And,
Me too.
I mean, even if you have life situations that get in your way, like God forbid you have some health issue or something and you can't complete the graphic novel, at least communicate with your fans and let them know what's going on so they're not left in the dark. I mean, let's look at the royal family right now is just one classic example of the worst public relations F up in history.
Well, then you have Harry and Meghan are separate from that, but
Yeah,
they're in the running. They're in the running.
They're definitely, yeah.
They're prominent figures in my Florida Man books, by the way.
Are they?
Oh my goodness. I guess they're public figures, so you're allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I call them Larry and Regan, but I mean, it's obvious who they are.
Yeah.
And, it's some pretty funny stuff. Gary drags them through the swamp.
I love it. I remember when you first started writing it, and I think I got like a advanced reader copy of just the text or something, and I was reading it and I was just cracking up just like in the first. I think it's so funny. It's very Carl Hyacin to me, whom I love. I love Carl Hyacin.
Yeah,
so,
it's my most popular novel.
I can believe it. I'm still mad that we haven't gotten your young adult novel out there because it was so beautifully written and it's such a beautiful story.
Well, keep your fingers crossed because the same producer that optioned Biker now wants to option Disco, and I hope he does.
Oh, good.
Unfortunately, the book has no home. It's not being published by anyone. I would love to see it back in print. I have the complete files. I got the professional artwork that's just spectacular. I mean, it's print ready.
Mm-hmm.
I just need somebody to take a chance. But every time I approach somebody, say, we're only interested in series.
Oh, I have some people I can hook you up with, Mike.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I absolutely do. Mm-hmm.
For people that are interested or might be interested in your services, is your preference to do more like books and novels now, or?
I love doing it. I have a lot of fun doing it because, as part of my services, I love, of course, making like the videos like I did for Jerry and I just did one for an author by the name of John W. Maley. He got a book coming out in June called Juris Ex Machina, and he's a really interesting guy because he actually is a computer scientist. He went to Syracuse, got his computer engineering degree, went to Stanford, got his master's, actually taught at Stanford, and then had to do so much patent work as part of his job. And also he holds probably over 20 patents at this point for software stuff. And so he decided to go back and get his law degree. And so he also has a great imagination. So he wrote this story, and it's about in the year 2041, there's just nothing but AI to do all of the decision making for court cases. And they mistakenly, state that this character, the main character, is guilty. And so it's
mistakenly.
Yeah. So it's the man versus machine story of the century. So so I did a book trailer for him, and right now I'm booking his signing tour throughout the United States. I'm working on that. So I really enjoy doing that. The other important thing I would tell people, if they don't have a publicist, it's not cheap, but it's worth every penny. If you can sign up for Steve Harrison's National Publicity Summit, it happens, it might happen 4 times a year, I think, at most, maybe once a season. And what he does is he puts together 90 plus TV producers. And I mean, these are major morning show producers, nightly news producers. What they do is they put you on a Zoom call. You're in on My Kajabi is what they use. And you get on a Zoom call and you're directly pitching all of these producers and radio hosts and podcast hosts, and also print journalists, a lot of magazine journalists. And so, you do these pitches I think I did 6 nights of 4 hours a night.
Wow.
And it's intense. Let me tell you, it's
Wow.
pretty stressful, but it's so worth it because you've got that FaceTime with the actual producers and with the actual journalists. And so if you can afford to do it, I mean, I think it's about $5,000 per every time you do it, but you're getting directly in front of the people that are making the decisions. And that's
So
so
you
important.
do this from your home, right?
Yeah, you're doing it just like I'm talking to you right now.
Right.
Yeah.
What does that Zoom screen look like? It would have to be broken down into like 500 tiny little panels.
Well, what they do is they break you into rooms, and so there's just maybe 4 or 5 of you, and so you watch, and then and they'll bring in a journalist, and then that journalist will step out, and then they'll bring in the next journalist. So you're watching the other 4 or 5 people in your group pitch all night, and so you get to really know the people that you're in the room with. And I've made a lot of friends with creatives just from that. I'm usually the only publicist on there. It's usually just directly creatives. It's the authors of books. It's the creators of products, or it's just people that want to establish themselves as a subject matter expert with the media. I enjoy it. I think it's really fun, but for somebody very introverted, it would probably be a challenge.
Where can we find you on social media?
My x.com is at Right Brain Media, which is spelled WRITEBRAINMEDIA. So it's at Right Brain Media. But LinkedIn is where I'm probably the most active, LinkedIn and X. And I'm on Facebook, but not that much. I just, I duck in and out. LinkedIn is kind of my favorite platform. I do a little bit on Pinterest. I'm here and there. A little bit on TikTok, enough to be dangerous.
I will say, for people who were like on LinkedIn and focused on it, and then they kind of went away from it, if you go back to it, as she is recommending, you will find that it is a lot better, and there are a lot more. There's a lot more opportunities there than there were before. I feel like in the last 5 years, they've kind of really picked up their game some, and it's a little easier to use, and you actually do make good connections. And
and especially if you're in that creator mode, then there are a lot more opportunities for you there. And I think that's still free. I don't think you have to have a premium account to be in creator mode. It's worthwhile to do a newsletter on there. I think it's worthwhile to do the live events, like I mentioned. And there's kind of a debate. It's interesting because they'll say they don't really index the hashtags, and it's not worth doing the hashtags, but I still do searches on hashtags, and I'm still able to find stuff. So I'm going to continue to hashtag on LinkedIn. I don't even care that they're saying they're not indexing it. I'm still doing it. That's another important thing. Join the groups on LinkedIn. Even if you're just lurking, join the groups to see what people are talking about. This one called Abound Social. It's ABOUND, Abound Social. And what they do is they have all the subject matter experts on LinkedIn, because there are some people that get locked out of their accounts or have different issues. And so I've learned a lot from attending some of the Abound Social. I think it's every Wednesday that they meet at like 10 o'clock. And so they do like a half an hour, and it's always really informative, worthwhile. A gentleman named Monty Clark, Monte, Monty Clark, Clark, runs it. And he's just wonderful. He also has a really good marketing podcast. And the other group I'm involved in is Copy Romp, which is Sarah Rosinski. It's all copywriters. All of us crazy copywriters are in there, because that's another aspect of what I do. And then she has another really fun group called Coffee Clutch, which is KAFFEE Clutch, KLATSCH. And that meets like every week or so, and it's just a random group of people that are creatives that get on in there and just talk shop about whatever we want. So it's really fun. There's a lot of really, really fun groups on there.
They are, most of them like video recorded things, or or like live video things. Okay.
Yeah, Monty records Abound Social, so if you're in it, like, you can go back and look at the past recordings. I don't know that Sarah does. I don't think so. I should also mention like YouTube and podcasting, and get on as many podcasts as you can. There's a free service called podcastguest.com. And then if you want to see which are the top podcasts for your category, there's a website called listennotes.com. And listennotes.com, if you type in, say, comics, it will list the top podcasts based on, the number of listeners, and then also like the most recent ones. So
what's the name of that site again?
Listen Notes, LISTENNOTES. There's also radioguestlist.com. I pay like $8 a month for the pro version, but radioguestlist.com will give me a feed of every single radio show that's looking for guests. And then once a year, they put together a really wonderful directory for a couple $100 of just like all the radio shows and podcasts and what they're looking for and all the contact information. So that's a really good one too. There used to be, and I think it still exists, a site called Blogger Link Up. So if you're somebody that wants to blog and you want to guest blog on other people's blogs, Blogger Link Up is, I think, one of them. There's just so many to me, this is the best time in the world to be doing marketing because it's so inexpensive. There's so many things. If you're willing to put a little effort in, there's so many things you can do for free. I mean, God, just even, not that I'm professional by any stretch, but like I just do every once in a while, I do this little podcast called Cool People I Know, which I need to have you guys on. And, and it's just, I literally record it in, Google Meets and upload it, via AnchorFM, and I don't clean the audio. I don't do, anything professional with it really. I know, gasp, but it's getting content out there. It's just, you've got to get the content out there. I've only done a few, and one of them I did that was really good was with my ghostwriting teacher, Claudia Suzanne. And she's just so brilliant, and she just explains what a wide open field that really is. There's not that many ghostwriters out there, and there's so many people that want their stories told. So it's a great field to be in. I know of. I have a book I'm working on about the ADHD tax, because I have ADHD, and it just talks about, solutions for everything from customer experience to user experience designers to managers to parents on how to, better, not better manage, but have better solutions for people with ADHD. But the solutions that I provide would help anyone, not just somebody with ADHD. It just make life easier for everyone. So, I have that book coming out in October. And then, I've been working on my memoir, Comic Book Wife, and I will say this for the authors out there that are listening, and Mike can attest to this. The hardest thing is to get published, right? And so, like I did through Steve Harrison's group, I did do a literary agent pitch fest, and of course, after COVID, everybody was writing a memoir, and mine was a memoir. It's called The Comic Book Wife, about the crazy life on the comic book circuit, and. And I just couldn't get anybody interested in it. And one of the biggest things that any literary agent is looking for is how many social media people you have following you on your platform. And despite the fact that I have, a lot on LinkedIn, and Dave has a lot, and it just doesn't matter. I mean, they want celebrity level, following, or they're just not going to give you a deal. And I don't have that. So, it's very frustrating, but that's why you have to look at other, publishing alternatives. So, and there are many out there, which I am happy to share with people. Okay, and I've been recommending to people to watch Mike's writing tips. Because those are wonderful. Really great. Mm-hmm.
You're going to do another one tomorrow.
Good. I'll put it out there on LinkedIn for sure.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on. I hope I gave some good information, and I'll follow up with you guys.
Too much. We need to break it into like 3 parts.